how do we leverage AI to empower us to problem solve differently?
The expertise that humans bring that AI can't replace.
Unemployment, or a lot of folks talking about job insecurity. Ironically, in the era of AI, you are using AI as problem solvers on that.
Have you ever wished someone could just tell you exactly what to do next in your career? Or even what you should have done years ago? What if technology could actually do that and get it right? In this episode, we're diving into how AI is being used not to replace educators and professionals, but to empower them. You'll learn how Pivot, an innovative tool developed by Curt and his team at Resultant, is transforming the job search experience for unemployed individuals, providing them with personalized careers and training recommendations that are increasing their hourly wages. We also explore how AI and data literacy are becoming essential skills for educators and students alike, not as a replacement for human insight, but as a tool to maximize it. And finally, we'll hear how projects like the Student Data Backpack are building new bridges between schools, post-secondary pathways, and employers. Today's guest, Dr. Curt, leads a dynamic education team at Resultant, where the helps drives solutions across early childhood, K-12, and post-secondary education. With a background as a youth worker and educator, and experience leading data-driven strategies across public institutions, Curt's work focuses on aligning mission, data, and innovation. At Shifting Schools, Trish and I are passionate about helping schools navigate this new era of AI, data, and personalized learning. Whether you're just starting to explore the possibilities or you're already experimenting with innovative tools, we're here to support you every step of the way. You can book a time to chat with us for free directly on our website. Just head over to shiftingschools.com and let's explore how we can support each other in our journeys. I think you're going to enjoy this one with Curt and talking about how AI is helping us as teachers, supporting students, whether they are preparing for colleges or careers. Enjoy. And with that, on with the show.
A quick pause before we dive back in. Since all summer long, we are talking about the future world of work, we know any future is only possible when we help students face the challenges of the now. That's exactly why we want to tell you about something that's going to change the way you understand your students' lives. It comes from the groundbreaking group at Alongside, an AI-assisted mental health support tool built specifically for K-12 schools. And this summer, Shifting Schools listeners can be among the very first to access Alongside's brand new 2025 Youth Mental Health Report. It's packed with insights drawn from over 250,000 anonymous AI chats students had on Alongside's evidence-based platform over the past school year. Here's just a small glimpse of what you'll learn. Why teens say sleep is one of their biggest struggles. What's making school life balance feel impossible? The unexpected ways boys are learning to ask for help. Why confidential, self-guided AI tools resonate so strongly with students, and what the research is showing about how tools like this can be used in safe and effective ways. Want the report and bonus access to an exclusive webinar? Head to www.alongside.care/shifting to get on that list. We're proud to have Alongside as a sponsor this summer, and even prouder to help spotlight their work in reimagining student mental health. Check out the show notes to learn more, or head straight to www.alongside.care/shifting. And now, back to the conversation.
Welcome back to another episode of Shifting Schools. Excited that Trisha and I are here today together, which doesn't happen very often as well, to talk with Curt today about Pivot. Curt, thank you for coming on the podcast. And in 2023, your team and you launched Pivot, which helped unemployed individuals identify higher wage job opportunities and the training needed to get there. Can you talk a little bit about Pivot and how it is powered by AI as we kind of get started today in this conversation?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me. As you mentioned, Pivot is a cutting edge tool that we had the opportunity to collaborate with the Indiana Department of Workforce Development to bring to fruition. And the tool makes personalized career and training recommendations based on a citizen's work history, wage history, and educational attainment. And so for those citizens who are perhaps on unemployment insurance today, log into their portal, get a set of personalized recommendations for careers, credentials that they might have an interest in based on their prior experiences. And they have an opportunity to interact and say, yep, that's right in line, I'm interested, or you got it wrong, try again. And with that feedback, then they're able to then pursue where then can I go get training? Where can I then go apply for openings relevant to this? And we're starting to make connections to local community colleges where they can express an interest. That community college is aware of that interest, and the community college can actually reach out to the citizen and get them engaged. So we're really excited about it. We're showing that already being implemented, that, as you mentioned, people are earning more per hour on average using those AI insights than those who are just relying on the traditional methods.
Very cool.
And it's had a really significant impact. Some of the stats around it are remarkable. And I'm just kind of struck by this idea that unemployment, or a lot of folks talking about job insecurity, ironically, in the era of AI, you are using AI as problem solvers on that. And I wonder, in light of that project and other work that you're doing, how you see data literacy and AI literacy coming together to help us solve problems in ways that we never would have imagined were possible before. If you're speaking directly to somebody who's saying, you know what, I want to work as a problem solver in my future, that's the thing that I really love doing. Curt, what would you say in terms of what you need to understand data literacy? You need to understand AI tools as well.
It's a fantastic question. Do we have 2 hours? Because I could, I'll try to be brief. But I love that question. And when I think about data literacy, I think it takes a lot of cognitive power to process all of these disparate data, right? I was a teacher. We had a data war room with posters and charts, and we'd walk around the room. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can't quite take all this in. Well, with Pivot, it's ingesting 160 million data sets.
Wow.
And so what AI is positioning us to do is become better problem solvers. And here's how. Use the analogy of creating a meal. What's for dinner? Well, I have to go to the pantry. All right, I've got risotto and I have chicken in the refrigerator and I've got these vegetables. I think I can make this meal. Nope, that won't work. That's a lot of compute power in your brain. Well, with AI, it kind of takes that compute power and focuses it on okay, here's the meal. Now we just need to plate it. And now we need to use our professional discretion to then what is the best path to go forward in light of this analysis that AI helped us do, whether it's prescriptive, whether it's predictive, whether it's even just descriptive analytics, plain and simple. It allows us to have more discernment as professionals and problem solvers by serving all of that up to us. Our public sector agencies, particularly education entities, are just overwhelmed by mounds of data. And you could get into analysis paralysis pretty quickly and become a really ineffective problem solver. But now by harnessing AI, you're able to really maximize your brain power. And so data literacy is so important because we have to understand how to have conversations around data. We have to understand how the data came to be, how it was calculated, and what are the implications, or what am I missing from what the data is showing me? So it's not like hitting the easy button and poof, AI is giving us all the answers to the questions.
Yeah, right.
I wish, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
sometimes I do treat AI like that. Like, I don't know, just tell me what I need to make for dinner.
Yeah, right.
But I think more than ever, data literacy is so important. And so there's a lot of uncertainty, like, oh, data is going to replace all these jobs. I don't necessarily think so. I think, yes, in some industries, absolutely. But people who don't know how to use AI or how to appropriately level set around the usage of AI will quickly become ineffective in solving really complex problems.
And I think one of the things I love hearing you say, and I think we've heard this over and over again through this series of the future of work, is the idea of leveraging AI. And this is where very much Trish and I are constantly harping on with the work that we're doing in K-12, is we've got to get out of this mindset of AI is going to replace the work we do and
Right.
get to a mindset of AI's job is to empower us to do things that we couldn't do before because we were stuck in data analysis paralysis. We get stuck so much in the weeds that we were never really able to have these high level conversations or different conversations that when you leverage AI, it empowers us to think different, to act different, to be different on a different level because it is able to ingest millions of data points and give us things that we literally couldn't have done. Like it would have taken, or you didn't have the money to do, like the team it would have taken to do all of that, and the
Yeah.
meeting time it would have taken to do all that.
Yeah.
And this thing, and I think if we think of it in how do we leverage AI to empower us to problem solve differently, empower us to think differently about the problem, that to me is a completely different mindset of looking at what AI means for us as humans moving forward.
Yeah. And it still honors the expertise that
Yeah.
humans bring that AI can't replace, right? It still honors the fact that the teacher alone has the most intimate view of a student and what they need. But it provides efficiency for that teacher to be able to have a focus on translating and making sense of the data. I'll give an example of kind of some other initiatives that we're working on, similar to Pivot. Um, when I was a teacher, it took a lot of energy to try to look at all of my students' scores, understand evidence-based practices, and then create lesson plan for the classroom and individual plans. With AI, I can train AI on all the evidence-based practices, let's say science of reading, and I can have it trained on all of my formative and other assessment data points. And I can bring it together and it can say, hey, based on Sally's profile, based on Sally's scores and the research trained on, these might be some worthwhile interventions. I, as a teacher, still have that professional discernment to say what's going to be best for the student, but it's served up to me in a way to where I didn't have access to that in one stop shop. And so now my day looks quite different, from data mining and reading all these articles and going to these workshops to operationalizing what it's telling me and exercising that professional authority and insight. And so I really ultimately, what I've talked about people in the education sector, I think AI will have a lot to do with elevating the profession, giving the profession access to just insights that at speeds of which have never been seen before.
Yeah. I mean, and I think education's a good industry for this because we have the data. We have every grade that every kid has ever taken from kindergarten through 11th or 12th grade. Like we have that data. But nobody has the time to go back and look at, oh, did you realize that Jeff has been struggling with the SH sound for 4 years? Because as a sixth grade teacher, I only know that he's struggling with it in sixth grade. And maybe I got the notes from fifth grade, but I didn't get the notes from fourth grade. And I definitely didn't get the notes from third grade to realize that this is something that this child might have been struggling with. And it might just be a struggle that that child has. And I mean, the data is sitting there. We just not had a way that I can go to a system and say, talk to me about Jeff and the SH sound. It's like, oh, well, Miss Susie in second grade was still talking about this. And these are the interventions that have happened. And here's things that teachers have tried with Jeff. Here's something I can recommend now that he's in sixth grade. Here's something I can recommend for you. I mean, that would blow a teacher away. And the data has been sitting there, but we haven't had a system that is able to take large amounts of data, crunch it down, and make it usable to empower us to help that kid in front of us. And
that's the key
exactly
part.
to your point, I think that is the revolution for education. It's not replacing the teacher. It's allowing us to use the data we have to make better decisions.
And to go back to Indiana, another initiative we're excited about is the Student Data Backpack. So we have spent the last, 4 or 5 years working with the Department of Education to modernize all the infrastructure to allow data to follow a student. so they can get that longitudinal view as a student moves schools. And that eventually can turn into, helping an employer or a post-secondary institution see all of the capstone work that they've done. But we can better understand trends and insights that we haven't had before. We can address chronic absenteeism before it happens by looking at patterns and trends. But we have to make the data accessible. We have to bring it out of its data silos, and we have to democratize that access down to educators. And it's not as simple as creating a fancy dashboard, because we kind of went through that phase, right?
Yeah.
And just, a dashboard. The power of data is not in the dashboard. It's in the conversations that happen around it. And then if you can't make sense of what that data is saying and how that implies your day-to-day work, it's just another distraction. And so we have to think about how it embeds itself into the day-to-day work.
And I think with that, Curt, part of what helps people come on board, and I'm thinking of parents and caretakers alongside district level leaders, is sometimes understanding the story of the difference that it can make. So I'm wondering if in closing, you can kind of give us, it's either like a hypothetical story or even a story that you've seen play out where here's the difference that it makes when you take data and you do use emerging technology to better understand and solve the problem. And I'll give you kind of a moment to think about this, because I think to really see where the future is going, it helps to zoom in on one. And this past year, I realized, I can write Spotify and ask them, I don't want my year wrapped. I want you to give me my lifetime data, because I've been on Spotify for a very long time now. When I had access to all of that data, I was able to play around and analyze and say, okay, what is something that despite, algorithmic recommender systems, it's like, I used to be listening to this a decade ago and I am still a fan, even if it's not something that I'm listening to like weekly, but you're still able to see like, this is obviously like a band. This is a song that Trisha has loved for a long time that maybe she doesn't recognize. And it was like fascinating. And if you had asked me to answer that question on my own, without the data, without the AI, I would not have been able to answer it. Now I realize I'm not solving a massive problem, but I'm sharing that just as an example of the human brain cannot crunch that much information in that way. We're incapable. So when you're thinking about the work that you do, what becomes possible with massive amounts of data and then all of a sudden this incredible technology that can understand it? What's the story that comes to mind?
Well, I think we talk a lot about personalized education and personalized pathways. And I think now we're on the brink of actually making that a reality that's beyond just our own interest. So kind of using your example, we kind of don't know what we don't know, or we are maybe more accustomed to what's in the moment. And we lose sight of kind of that, what works and for whom and how, and then adapting that or generalizing that across populations. Being careful to not introduce bias and things of that nature. But what's possible is now we can have a student coming to our school, or we can have a citizen who is looking for work. We can understand more about them, know about them, and compare who they are with others that have had success in our program or in our school, and prescribe or suggest, here's a pathway that might actually be really good for you, whether you knew it or not, based on prior success of other people who have come before you with similar interests and backgrounds, goals. We can get down to what's the right scope and sequence of courses, or time to introduce certain topics, or pathways they just never thought was possible because they've never had all of that brought together in one place, where there's learned of what's worked for others similar to me with my interests and my aspirations. And now I get to have, a pathway that's specific to me, built on some reliable insights of what works and for whom. And so in an era where we are being asked to do more with less, we have to look at our data and we have to look at the technologies available to us, make them work for us, not us work for them.
And I just think about what this means for K-12. I think about, the juniors and seniors right now that are either finishing up their school year or will be in the next month. And how powerful would this be of, hey, when I grow up, or what I want to have a job in X, Y, and Z, can I go to a system somewhere and say, what is the cheapest way for me to get to that degree or get to that certification. Or because I even think about my own pathway. I am a K-12, right, certified K-12 teacher, but my pathway was pretty cheap because I went to community college for 2 years, which I was
Yeah.
able to pay for out of pocket before I went to my 2-year university. And that pathway was cheaper than those that went straight to the University of Washington,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we both have the same certificate to teach in the same schools.
Yep.
And I think
Exactly.
about, like, what could this do for those in poverty, those that are coming from less than, that you just say, like, I want to do this, but all I hear in the news is how expensive it is. Can you support me in figuring out what's the cheapest path to get there? And
Yep.
cheapest path might be 2 years of internship. And then,
Yeah.
like, I was talking to a person the other day. This was like one of the coolest stories that just came up. He started as a barista at Starbucks and
Hmm.
is now like high up inside their IT division. But it's because Starbucks helped pay for his undergrad.
Hmm.
After he got his undergrad, he got a promotion in Starbucks. They then helped pay for his master's degree. He then got his master's degree in IT. Instead, he was going out ready to apply for jobs, and Starbucks is like, no, we've got a job for you right here at Starbucks. And he used the pathway of Starbucks to get his career where he wants it to be. And now he can work from home anywhere. He's going to move to Thailand because that's where him and his wife want to live, because he can. And I'm thinking that's a pathway that a lot of people probably don't know. It's like you can leverage this company and you could leverage the pathway within this company to get you to where you need to be. Yes, you might have to serve coffee for 2 years in Starbucks, but you can get there, right?
I would do that. It's that idea of stacking those credentials
Yeah.
and think of those non-conventional pathways to be able to get to that place. There's upskilling and reskilling and stacking these credentials, and it can be really hard, to your point, for people. Like, I was a first generation college student. I didn't even know what a credit hour was when I
Yeah.
started. And so it makes more equitable access to these programs. And it also puts less reliance on, well, I have to go meet with an academic advisor face to face to plan. No, it's just changing the way that higher ed has to work now. Everyone it's got to be on my phone. I want it now. I want to ask my questions. I need real time insights.
Well, I wonder, Kurt, with the insights, if it's also able to be thinking about the problem, because Jeff, you're right, cost, that's definitely a barrier. But then
Yeah.
I think there's also, it is so difficult to be able to predict or be aware of where are industries where there's huge amounts of opportunity. Because I think about, like, maybe what, if I had grown up with a system like this, it would have been like, Trisha, with your level of anxiety and your skills, you should be an air traffic controller. And there's a huge market for that. Like, and it's a
Yeah.
great salary. Like, that maybe I would have been pointed towards that. I'm wondering, what else do you maybe think? It's not possible yet, but do you think there's also going to be this possibility to do what
Mhm.
you're doing and then also stack on, hey, we're able to see 2045, these are some emerging industries that are going
Yeah.
to need more workers.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to your Spotify example, it's like, hey, you might like this, but you don't know this music, but you might like it because we know a little about you. And then you find something like, oh my gosh, this is great. Wouldn't have found that on my own, right? And I would say pivot is the beginning stages to do that. If someone is on unemployment insurance due to reduction in force, or where there's a surplus of supply and not the demand, they're going to need to look at reskilling to put them in a more competitive position in the job market. And so that has to rely on those workforce insights by looking at the data, looking at it from a geographic perspective as well. But in a world where we are remote, we have to factor in that also. So there's a lot of different dynamic things. And I think this new era is going to push for more kind of mapping of that data so we can kind of tear down this invisible wall that's been kind of between our workforce systems and our K-12 systems, so we can be better informed at the K-12 level what pathways are going to be in high demand in this region in our country to kind of help maybe guide students to. But also when I'm upskilling, reskilling, yeah, I want to know what's in demand. What could I make as far as a salary in this job? What's the projection out in the future look like? I can make a sound investment in my education and in where I decide to grow as a professional as well.
I love that. As kind of we wrap up here, what does this mean for teachers today? I'm a middle school teacher. I teach middle school math, and I've got all these standards that I have to cover. And I'm sitting here learning to Curt saying, I need to somehow figure out how I get AI literacy and data literacy into these classrooms. What kind of your like, as we wrap this up, what is your message to teachers on what should they be looking at and thinking about today to prepare these kids for tomorrow?
Look for every opportunity, just like what we do as educators, to bring the outside world in. I know we're across the gamut, and for good reason, to have a lot of caution and concern, but there are ways to safely and responsibly bring AI into the classroom. It's not going away. So we have to get some of us have our heads in the sand. We have to lift up and look, how can we responsibly bring that in? Because whether we agree, disagree, like, hate AI, our students are going to be out in the world that's inundated with it. So let's teach them the rules of the road, bring it in where we can in a safe, responsible way, and model for our students how we're using AI to elevate ourselves as professionals, not water down or lessen the value that we have.
I love that, Curt. And you've inspired me to be so generous as to offer. If you're a math teacher and you're saying, oh, but I need a data set. If you want my lifetime Spotify data set, I will donate it to your math classroom. See what else you can do with it creatively.
It's all about open data, right? We're in the age of open data, and Trisha's willing to share her entire Spotify playlist for anybody willing to just want to geek out.
Yeah. There you go.
And we could do some regression analyses. We could do some really fun things to really kind of draw some
phases of Trisha's life. Can you imagine what we could get out of this? Yeah. This is her Singapore stage. This is when she was living in. Yeah. This is when she was in the Peace Corps. We'd know all the different stages of Trisha's life based on the music.
But what a fun project to do. That's a great example to do that. I didn't start playing around with things like that until I was in my doctorate program. I wish I could have had more exposure into that. It's so fun. So I love that example, and I love that idea.
Yeah. What a reflective practice. Curt, thank you so much for spending time with today. If people want to learn more about you, more about Pivot, more about the things you're working on, where is a good place for them to go?
Yeah, they can go to resultant.com. We have a slew of blogs and point of view articles that we publish with our clients to learn more. And we're always happy to engage with others and share what we've been learning and how we've been supporting other states and industries in this realm. So really appreciate the forum and the conversation. Great questions. Really enjoyed my time.
Awesome. Thanks, Curt.
Thank you.